overall seed on our Season 2 leaderboard, looking to climb up a little bit, and if he's able to win this tournament, catapults himself right into the race for Season 2. Our player's been given the green light. It's a windswept teeth. Tom going to sacrifice that, of course, for our Plains, Laguna Man Trailblazers, and our quarterfinals are underway here from Syracuse.
One copy of this in the main deck, just an extra heroic target for him here. 4 copies of Hero of Heroes, Battle-Wise Hoplite, Favorite Hoplite, and Secret of the Way.
Frontier Bivouac is how Nacci will start. Tom going to cast a God's Willing on upkeep. Looks like somebody's hunting for a second land if he's making this play. That card goes to the bottom. We'll see if he's able to draw one. He is not, so just an attack here for 1. And Tom's lost to mono red today actually was to keeping a 1-lander both times and not getting there. So this might be a little difficult here as Nacci's going to play a Temple of Epiphany, put that top card to the bottom.
Todd Anderson mentioned to me right before we went on the air that Tom likes to keep 1-landers with this deck more than anyone else has seen. This was a very speculative 1-lander. Typically we see him with Defiant Strike. This with God's Willing to try to scry, and no second land just yet.
His favorite hoplite. Here's Heir of the Wilds. That was quick.
we get updates feeded into us from our producer.
We do.
Chris Van Meter already up a game.
Yeah, just not wasting any time. Everybody wants to get out of here. Everybody's coming in the red zone right now. My goodness, there's a block. Here's a God's Willing. That'll let Tom win this battle. He'll get the scry. He'll think about this card. There goes the Heir of the Wilds. Note that Nacci's having mana issues as well, though he does draw a 3rd land here in a forest. And now there's a Goblin Rabblemaster, which means a Goblin will be coming along with it. It'll come into the red zone. Ross will go down to 18.
And it's got speeded up a little bit, and Rabblemaster will mostly be uncontested unless Tom can get access to Dramoka's command. And that's a very, very good source of pressure here for Tom.
Defiant,
excuse me.
Sure, Defiant Strike was the draw for the boss. And he's going to slow down a touch, as a mountain is the draw here for Nacci. And he does have Surak that he can play. And will play. Goblin token going to come in. Surak can attack. And so it's going to do just that, it seems. Everybody's coming into the club.
And I think Tom has Defiant Strike in hand, so he's got a couple different ways of how he can do some real damage here inside of combat. He could have tried to eat up the Rabblemaster and get rid of a token. I think it's better to get Surak off the table here.
I think he agrees. So Surak's going to bite the dust, as that Laguna Man Trailblazer now has 4 power and a whole bunch of toughness. Favorite Hoplite will take care of Goblin token. Tom will take a nice shot to the face, though, from Rabblemaster and that Goblin. Tom's still just operating on 1 land right now.
Tom pointing out it's 3+4 from the Defiant Strike, so that takes care of it.
Ross will draw. He has a mana confluence, so now he finally has some lands.
And Tom wasn't clearly losing on 1 land, so land number 2, very bad news for Andy.
See if he can come up with a nice line of play here. The game is close. Andy does have a Stormbreath Dragon in his hand, but he doesn't have a 5th land for it just yet. Trailblazer's getting aggressive. Follow up, favorite hoplite, kick it over. See if he's able to draw that 5th land untapped. Boon Satyr is the draw.
Yeah, pretty chunky hand from Andy. A lot going on for 5 mana.
Yeah, Knuckleblade here, however. Quick update for you guys here. I'm Michael Egolf. Mono red up a game against Ryan Sandrin, who is playing red-green aggro. His red deck splashing for a Tarkus command. Again, we think it's going to be a quick one here. There is a Nux. Give it haste. Red zone sounds like a nice place to be. Tom going to decide how to block now.
He can put a lot in front of the Knuckleblade here, or he can take the Rabblemaster out with this Defiant Strike. Looks like getting rid of the Rabblemaster and probably committing himself to chump blocking the Knuckleblade a bit is what Tom is going to be doing, which I like.
So Defiant Strike does draw Tom a card, lets him kill some things in combat. He'll have to take some more damage though from Knuckleblade and the Goblin. He's down to 7, Nacci at 14. Nacci trying to keep the pressure on as Ross will draw a card. Now he's got lands, Plains and Windswept Teeth.
A lot to work with.
The one thing he's looking for probably, though, is Ordeal of Heliod.
Only one in the main deck, and no Heliod's Pilgrim, so he can't tutor for it.
So is he able to keep the pressure on while also being able to play some amount of defense?
Well, Storm Breath is something he's not going to be able to defend himself
No.
And if Andy finds land number 5, Tom's in trouble. But the ground, Tom can really manage here. He's got a lot of chump blockers to work with. His creatures can become reasonable size inside of combat. So it's just avoiding land number 5 here from Andy.
There's Plains. Seeker of the Way might be a nice card to turn to here. I think Tom's got to decide, again, how he wants to attack, how he wants to try to play defense. If he wants to try to go about chump blocking the Knuckle Blade, all that stuff, he's got to work into his decision-making.
Yep. I don't think he wants to take another shot from the Knuckle Blade here because he's playing against a deck with Clear's Claws and Lightning Strike. So going from 7 to 3, very risky.
There's a Seeker. Pass that turn back. Let's see what Nacci draws. It's a big one here. That's an untapped land. That means the Stormbreath Dragon's probably going to come to town. Boonsader also an option. He's got 2 of those in his hand.
Well, I don't think Boonsader gets him very far because he's still just about attacking on the ground. He also might just die on the way back if he commits too much to the attack and then Boonsaders.
Take a moment to sort your deck and then bring it up.
I think the approach he wants to take here is go to Stormbreath Dragon. Get in the air, and then next turn he can actually Boonsader onto that.
Exactly, and if Tom's gained some life here with the Seeker of the Way this turn, Andy may still be able to win on the way back with the Boonsader and the Stormbreath Dragon.
Aqua's formed the draw. Another update, Jesse Grogan with Obs on Aggro up a game here over Stephen Rice playing green-red aggro. So most of those players working their way into their second game. I'm not sure if Tom's able to work his way out of this one.
He needs to gain quite a bit of life this turn or generate lethal to not die on Andy's turn, and that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
His hand's also clawed with blue cards right now, and he only has 1 blue source of mana, and that's a problem as well.
I think we're going to see a Valorous stance. That'll trigger Heroic. Tom deciding how many creatures he wants to attack with. That'll trigger. Draw 2 cards. Didn't get a great look at what he picked up. Centered Soul is one of them. But Boonsader's Bestow probably makes it very difficult here.
I don't think Tom's going to be able to gain enough life this turn.
I don't think so either. There's a jump block. Let's have Knuckleblade going to jump in front of Seeker of the Way. Tom going to sacrifice his Windswept to go down to 1. Probably search up the forest here in this situation to turn on Dramoka's command. And I think we'll see Center Soul, which we do. That'll, of course, trigger Prowess. And he'll win this war. He'll go up to 5 from the lifelink. But again, it's the Boonsader that's going to do him in, as Nacci's going to very quickly draw Bestow, come across here for 8 points of damage. 8 is a lot more than 5. And Eddie Nacci's going to win game number 1 here against Tom Ross.
Took Tom a little bit too long to get out of his stumbles there. Was looking like he was actually kind of taking control of the game, but could not win in time before Stormbreath Dragon was able to do him in there. Tom took some pretty big shots there from Savage Knuckleblade and some Goblin Routemaster there while he was trying to keep the board contained, and that was just too much for Tom to overcome.
Take a look at the sideboard here. We'll start with the boss. He's got a Laguna Band Trailblazer, 2 Monastery Mentors, 2 Encase in Ice, 2 Ordeal of Heliod. Now, Jonathan's Presence, 2 Treasure Cruise, 1 Temple of Enlightenment, and 4 Stub Denial.
So I don't think this is really a spell-oriented matchup, nor is it something where Tom's planning on going particularly long. So I like the Trailblazer quite a bit, the 2 copies of Encase in Ice, the 2 copies of Ordeal of Heliod, and the 1 Ajani's Presence. We've seen Tom bring a Monastery Mentor almost every single match we've had him post-board, since typically they slow down. I don't think Andy's doing a lot to slow down Tom. He's mostly staying in aggro deck post-board. And so the Mentor may not come in, but again, we've seen Tom bring in basically every post-board game, so it wouldn't surprise me. The cards I'm sure of, the Presence, the 2 copies of Ordeal of Heliod, the Lagoma Band Trailblazer, and the 2 copies of Encase in Ice.
Hornet Nest, 2 copies of Destructive Revelry, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Feed the Clan, 3 Stubborn Denial, Sorak, Dragonclaw, 2 Barrage of Boulders, and a Roast here for Nacci.
Feels like a damage race kind of game to me. I like the copy of Roast, I like Sorak Dragonclaw, and I like the 2 copies of Feed the Clans. Destructive Revelry will have moments of being good. It will probably come in, but it's also very easy for Tom to set up situations where he casts an Ordeal, attacks with it, and activates it in 1 shot. When Andy's mana's down, Destructive Revelry is very easy to get stuck with, but when it's good, it's going to be great.
Season 2 is where we're at here on the Open Series. Season 1, of course, was won by Jim Davis. Shorter season here, though, for Season 2, as we are currently in Syracuse. We're wrapping up this one probably pretty quickly. States next week, and then Providence after that.
We go to Providence, Cleveland, and Portland for Standard Opens. After that, we head back to Dallas, where we had a huge Open. That will be Standard as well. A Legacy Open in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then the Season 2 Invitational in Columbus, Ohio, tied to the Origins Game Fair. Modern and Standard will be the invitational formats with a 2-day 20K Modern Open Series event, June 5th through 7th.
And don't forget that Portland date. It was in Seattle, but it has been moved to Portland now. If you want more information about that, head over to StarCityGames.com. You can find that in the news items section. As we do make our way through Season 2 here, we'll be crowning a champion probably within the hour.
I think that might be a little ambitious,
you think so?
But it's not going to take very long.
All of our players getting ready here for game number 2. Chris Van Meter up a game here over Van Nugent in the green-red aggro mirror. Jesse Grogan with Obzon aggro up a game over Stephen Rice playing green-red aggro. Michael Egolf with mono red up a game over Ryan Sandrin playing red-green aggro. Base red with Splash of a Tarkus command is what Sandrin is playing. And of course, Andy Nacci up a game here over Tom Ross, Teamer aggro, up a game over Banteroic. And CVM has decided he is ready for his next match as he has just won and beaten Van Nugent again. Chris beat him earlier today. He's knocked him out of the tournament. Van Meter moving on with the old Stormbred Dragons.
It's funny that even in a green-red mirror match like that, where you don't think there's a lot of nuance to it or a lot of difference between the lists, that you can have a matchup that is that lopsided. I think Chris had a substantial edge, just being the slightly bigger, more defensive deck.
I think so too. And if he's able to run into more decks like that, I feel like he might be the winner of our tournament.
The slightly more defensive Ash Cloud Phoenix deck.
Ryan Sandrin has tied things up. He was on the play there for game number 2, so able to tie things up. Red-green aggro and mono-red aggro going to a 3rd game.
Now with this being, we're in 2015, 2-day opens and all that, I think this has the potential to be the earliest we've ever gotten out of a show.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not only the earliest by hours.
Yeah, I don't think it's close.
I've never seen a top 8 like this in either Legacy or Standard.
There's always somebody who's playing some sort of control deck to slow things down.
This is the first time. I mean, we've got, I believe, 1 deck with Courser Crewfix in it, 0 decks with Dissolve.
Yep.
That's incredible.
But these players are moving and they are grooving. Standard is an aggressive format right now. Someone's gonna have to find a control deck to slow some things down here. This was not the weekend of Siege Rhino, that's for sure. Got 1 Obzon aggro deck in the top 8. And it can win the tournament, but this is not an Obzon control, Sultai Reanimator type tournament here.
It's such an intriguing response to the Invitational last weekend where we had 2 very slow, very cumbersome decks square off in the finals, to have a complete 180 the week after.
Completely different.
2 lands in Tom's hand, so we know he's keeping.
That's a snap keep. That's as easy as it can be.
That's just way more mana than Tom typically has.
There's a Plains. Pass that turn back. Nacci will take a draw to Yavimaya Coast. He'll play that. That'll put him down to 19 to play an Elvish Mystic. Tom going to cycle Defiant Strike. So he'll draw 1 card. And here's another. Monastery Mentor is in the deck. No blue mana here for the Ross. So he'll just play Laguna Band Trailblazer. Pass that turn back. Nacci will draw. Heir of the Wilds. Has a Temple of Epiphany. He'll play that. A little scry action here. That top card going to stay on top. The follow-up looks to be Heir of the Wilds, and it is. Pass the turn back over to Ross.
Great teamer opening so far for Andy. Knuckleblade in hand. The mana is fixed. Some removal spells.
Temple of Enlightenment, the draw here for Ross. Top card. See where it goes. Looks like it's going to stay on top. Tom going to sacrifice his fetch line. See if it's a forest he's looking for.
And that was another spot of kind of curious operations. You think you would fetch first and then scry.
Looks like he's going to go with the plains. There's Hero of a Rose, pass the turn back. Kind of daring Andy to kill it. Looks like Nacci's going to play a Temple. This one of Mystery, leave the top card on top. There's a Rose to get Hero of a Rose off the table. Here the Wilds will come in. Death Touch means no blocks.
So far, so good. Still keeping Tom's board pinned, getting some pressure going.
Favorite hoplite the draw.
Setting the stage for a big knuckle blade next turn.
Sure feels that way. Underbreak region too.
Some early man acceleration, some early removal, then just a sea of 4/4s of various costs, text blocks. Some have powers, some have drawbacks. It's just
That's what Teamer does.
the Teamer recipe.
That's a Battle-Wise hoplite in the passing of the turn. Surak the draw.
5 power creatures.
Yep. Text. Give other 4 power creatures haste.
Combos with other large things.
Sacrifice Wooded Foothills.
Then your Heir of the Wilds turns on.
Yeah. Basically a combo deck.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's not quite Legacy Storm, but we are seeing quite a few combos assembled here from Andy's side.
Michael Egolf is moving on to the semifinals as Surak will join the battlefield. We're coming into the red zone. Egolf just defeating, Ryan Sandrin. Mono red moves forward. Gonna play the winner, Jesse Grogan and Stephen Rice. Scry here, as Battle-Wise hoplite was targeted with God's Willing.
Yeah, Tom has got to make some inroads in Andy's board here. I imagine this will be a block on the Heir of the Wilds momentarily.
Yeah, he's got some real work to do.
He has stumbled out of the gates, both games. He has not been particularly smooth early on. And the Teamer deck, once the mana is online, it's not giving you a lot of time to figure out what you're trying to do.
No, Surak is actually a really nice addition to this deck.
For this matchup in particular,
Yeah.
because Tom's not killing stuff. Andy's got free reign to build up his board as much as he wants to. It's only Dramoka's command that interacts. So Surak gets to be the idealized version, where it's triggering all the time, it's dealing a bunch of damage.
Might actually see Tom do some chump blocking here. Wants to keep his life total high.
Has to. Like
That
I said,
hits so hard.
I'm skeptical of Surak's overall place in Standard, but in this kind of matchup, it's very good.
Tom kept his card on top. It's a God's Willing, so that means we got an ordeal. There's a trigger. Tom's going to think about this one. I mean, he's got some serious catching up to do. That card's going to go to the bottom. Now he's coming in. Trigger. 2 cards coming.
I feel like even if Tom finds Ordeal of Heliod, Andy might be just putting too much power into play.
Potentially.
And it's going to be having haste the whole way through.
Tom might also have to consider putting the shields down this turn as well. He's got a God's Willing in his hand. I'm sure he wants to keep that up, but at the same time, he might just have to play something, past which he just does, and hope that his creature doesn't die.
Yeah, he's risking a roast here that would end the game, but he's just got to get some chump blockers into play.
Now we're going to see what Andy's going to play. Because we are certainly in a damage racing situation. There's a Thunderbreak Regent. We're going upstairs. That gets haste. Let's come on in.
There is not a lot of nuance to what Andy's doing right now, but
Not
it
at all.
is very effective, given Tom's stumbles and inability to interact with the board.
Pretty straightforward chump block there. Pass the turn back. Ross down to 13. The question is, can Tom overcome this?
Ordeal of Heliod is the starting point.
Yep.
He's just got to gain a big chunk of life to give himself some cushion here.
Drew another copy of God's Willing, which is interesting, because we could see him aggressively use this, and that's what I thought we might see. Take a look. Bottoms up. Now he gets a scry from the other scry trigger. Bottoms up. In for 6. Nacci going to go down to 9. Tom does have something to play that gets to block. Looks like Nacci is down to 7, so we do have our life totals updated here. Apologies for that at home. That certainly makes a world of difference here, as Tom should be able to finish things off next turn, maybe with a God's Willing.
Well, remember that Andy can always try to pump the brakes a little bit, have a spread of blockers in terms of color. For example, you can cast the Stormbreath Dragon here, attack with one of your dragons, leave Surak and one of the dragons back on defense, then you have pro red covered and pro green covered.
That's what it looks like is going to happen here. There's a block. Again, Tom not going to let any damage through if he doesn't have to. I think Nacci understands the situation that he's in, so he's going to slow down a little bit too.
Yeah, this is essentially the same play. The goal is just to have a spread of blockers available.
Defiant Strike the draw. Tom now trying to figure out, okay, how do I work my way through all this nonsense since you've made things a little bit more difficult. Protection for red obviously means that Elvish Mystic gets the block. Protection from green means that Thunderbreak Regent gets the block.
Yep.
Though this can be pretty good. Defiant Strike is what makes this quite good. Defiant Strike and in combination, that and God's Willing. Well, that's pretty straightforward. He just gets that off the table.
And I really like that block from Andy. That's a non-intuitive, pretty cagey chump block there. Get the gold creature off the table if your goal is to have a spread of blockers available to play around a God's Willing effect.
Yep. Thunderbreak Regent the draw. See how aggressive Andy wants to get here. He's doing kind of a balancing act.
Yeah, at some point you'd like to pivot and try to close the game out. You don't want this going on for that much longer. And he is getting his attacks in. Tom is chump blocking for the time being, but you get the feeling you'd like to go ahead and get something going in the air. This is a problem too with this attack here from Andy, and I wonder if maybe he was supposed to make a shot here with Thunderbreak Regent and leave the Surak back on defense, because Tom's gumming up the ground here. And if Andy's plan here is to leave back a sizable set of blockers every single turn to play around God's Willing, these exchanges amount to time walk, because he's trying to punch through a little bit of damage. So Thunderbreak Regent plus the Storm Breath in his hand can finish the game off. But every time this sort of combat occurs, he gets further and further away from that.
And now Tom actually gets to kill Surak because he's using Defiant Strike and God's Willing. We can't figure out the +1/+0 that Defiant Strike brings. So now Surak, because of 4 toughness, that's going to bite the dust. Obviously, favorite Hotplate's not going to die because of God's Willing and the text when you target it with Heroic. And now Andy might actually just be in full-blown chump blocking mode.
Exactly. I think that if Andy had another copy of Thunderbreak Regent in his hand, I would have preferred for him to attack with a Thunderbreak Regent, leave Surak back on defense, because trying to punch through these hoplites on the ground, you know, if Tom's got any sort of hand, what you just saw will happen.
There's an Ordeal of Thassa. He's going to attack with both creatures. Trigger, peel 2. Hit 1 and 2. Plains and Jamoka's command, no green mana. Keep that in mind. Tom basically daring Andy to double block something. And that something will probably have to be
And Tom had pretty much the
Battle-wise
perfect
Hotplate. Go on, I'm sorry.
And Tom had pretty much the perfect life total here.
13's ideal.
Because, you know, Andy's got 4 in play and probably generates 4 with some sort of haste play, whether it's Stormbreath Dragon, Savage Knuckleblade, what have you. And so Tom can be very aggressive with his attacks, knowing that he's unlikely to die on the way back.
Shivan Reef the draw.
And now it looks like Andy is not capable of cobbling together multiple colors of blockers. He just has a knuckle blade and 2 knuckle blades left over in his hand.
Yep. Thunderbreak Regent going to come in. And if Tom is able to draw a green source of mana, I think it ends now. Flooded Strand is not it.
Yeah, Andy may be able to chump block out of this turn. Tom needs to send multiple attackers in because the Storm Breath colds the first one.
Yep.
And obviously Andy has lethal on the way back in the air.
Oh, yeah. So there's your attack. Pretty straightforward blocks. Tom can not sacrifice that Flooded Strand. I think that much is clear. That's a Monastery Mentor. Pass the turn back.
So he's got a chump blocker for this knuckle blade.
That may have been a Crater's Claws.
And if that's it, that should do it then.
1, 2, 3. That is a Crater's Claws. That is a timely top deck there for Andy Nacci. He's going to move carefully here, as he should. He's going to Crater Claws upstairs. This will be for 3. Tom will look at the life total.
I think that's the right amount to do it for. In the event that Tom has brought in a Stubborn Denial, not that he could cast it here, but he would still be able to play the knuckle blade back on defense.
Andy Nacci's going to get the job done here over Tom Ross. Bit of an upset here. Teamer Aggro will take care of Bant Heroic, and what was a matchup and a top 8 that looked very good for the boss. He's out.
Just kind of screwed around a little bit too long. A lot of the other 3-color creature decks of the format give you some time to draw out of it, but Andy was playing no such game.